Hello, and welcome to our documentary about OCD and obsession.
Obsession is a thought or an idea that preoccupies a person's mind.
Whereas OCD, other known as obsessive compulsive disorder, is an obsession of a thought to have to do things in a certain pattern.
And to help with the content in our documentary, we went out and got a series of interviews with different people, with professionals about OCD, people who have OCD, and people who have obsessions. To start off with, I went to Open Minds and spoke to Linda Brownbridge about OCD and how they treat it and the problems and effects that can have on the people.
Then I met up with two girls that have an obsession with One Direction and asked them various questions about their obsession.
And lastly, I went to a car enthusiast club to see what makes them obsessed with their car, why they asphyxiate themselves so much to it.
And last off, for the interviews, we felt that we obviously had the professionals' opinion on it. We got information about that way, but then we had two people who were obsessed with things, not somebody who had suffered with OCD. So we interviewed a student called Maggie, and during that she was able to give us an insight to what OCD actually did to people, and it was good context to the other two interviews we got about obsession. To start out with interviews, we went to Opening Minds and spoke to Linda Brownbridge, where she talked us through what they do at Opening Minds and how they treat people like that, the public awareness behind OCD and how that can affect people's opinions on people with obsessive behaviour and OCD.
My name's Linda Brownbridge. I work with IAPT in Grimsby at Open Minds, and we see people with mild to moderate mental health difficulties, mainly anxiety and depression. I think most people with OCD are quite secretive about it, so they hide it more than any of the other mental health problems that we come across. And they often don't want to let go of those behaviours, so they keep them going, if you like, and don't tell people what's going on. Yeah, we use CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, and the particular CBT approach is exposure with response prevention. So we would ask somebody to face their fears but not to respond as they normally would. What these people with OCD do is they're quite sneaky, and they'll try and drag everybody into doing the same behaviours as them. The best thing to do is not to do that, because it just maintains the problem. So the best thing to do is to discourage them from doing those behaviours, but you can't just go in and say you've got to stop doing all of that. You need to do it gradually. I think people should be more aware of mental health problems overall, really. And what we do is we try to reduce the stigma, because people automatically want to stay away from people with mental health issues.
After speaking to a professional about OCD and obsession, I then went and interviewed the two girls that are obsessed with One Direction. I spoke to them about their obsession with One Direction, and even spoke to them on their outside view on their own obsession with One Direction.
That's Louis, if you can see it. That's how close he was. I was freaking out, I was crying. Hi, I'm Cherie.
And I'm Eden,
And what are you here for?
to speak about our obsession with One Direction.
Unhealthy obsession.
May have got a bit out of control.
No control. Well, way back in 2010, I was a fan of the X Factor, and I saw this boy band. Well, I saw Liam. I used to fancy Liam a lot more. Auditioning on his own. And he didn't get through the year before, and then the year after he came back, and I was already a big fan of Liam's, and then he got put into this group. Oh, that works out. This boy band, and since then, my heart just beats for him.
I remember the time they was all crying because thought they didn't get through, and Niall's little face. This little Collins. And then they all got called, and then as soon as that happened, Louis, oi, just jumped on Harry like it was no tomorrow. God. Not a good question to ask.
Unhealthy. It ruins your life.
Yeah.
Literally.
It's like
No,
being
you're
dragged.
truthfully.
It's like being dragged
It
into the
does
depths of
ruin your
hell.
It ruins your life. It takes up your time. It makes you an emotional state when anything happens, e.g. Zayn leaving, because I was in a state that day.
Still a bit
If
emotional
anything,
about that,
Louis Thompson becoming a dad made me in a state. Everything makes you in a state. Your life is focused on one direction. Your every move in the day is, oh, Liam's tweeted, oh, Zayn's tweeted. You can't get anything done. You procrastinate so much and it literally ruins your life. It's unhealthy. And then if there's like tickets out, you're like, oh, I've got
straight
to go.
away,
And
even
you've
if
got,
you can't afford it.
you've got no money. And then you're like, oh, but I've got to have the front seat tickets. And then you're like, oh, but I ain't got no money for like college now. So
Yeah. So
they do. It ruins your life. It does. Yes.
definitely. Well,
To expand on what we said, you just anything they do, you have to be bothered about. Like, it could be the tiniest thing. Like, Niall posted this on Snapchat about him going to golf, and me and Eden were freaking out. Like,
I got it printed out, for Christ's sakes.
we printed them out. It's
Look,
just
there's a dog here. This is just a Snapchat filler, but it was cute. It was hella
every
cute.
day is at golf, and it's the same, near enough the same photo, but we still run up to each other.
If you want an overall explanation of how unhealthy it is, Liam pains abs everybody. Just to let you all know. Probably not know.
I don't know, because some people have obsessions over like good things, like a hobby, like a car,
Yeah.
or something else.
It's like men in the cars.
But when it's people you don't know, and it's just like
Yeah,
you're
that will
obsessing
probably
over
never
someone who
notice
doesn't even
you.
know you, and
Don't even know you exist in
like
this
an
world.
object or an item, it's fine. It's just
This is just probably
it's just
not
too much.
for the best.
Because
It
we
makes
enjoy
me
it.
happy. Makes
It
us
makes-
as happy as it makes us sad at the same time.
It's a balance.
Yeah.
I don't really care about other people's opinions, because at the end of the day, One Direction's been there for me more than half of the people who actually
Yeah,
like
who I considered
One
friends.
Direction. So yeah, I don't know. I just
I just love it. Look how cute he looks.
For my part, I went to a club called Modified Live. It's a yearly get-together of all enthusiasts from across the county who will bring their modified cars and they'll show them off, have parades, win trophies and take them around a track called Cadwell Park. I went to go see what kind of community there is and why there's so many people that are so interested in such a thing.
I set up a local car club to meet new people who share the same interests in cars. As a group, we all have different opinions in tuning and styling, which benefit each other when building our own car. People can be obsessed with cars for the image and the feel they provide. Car enthusiasts like to be unique with their cars, and one way of doing this is by tuning and modifying their own. Cars interest me because every car is unique in its own way, whether it be performance or styling. They all have their own character. Starting with the basics, a good set of wheels can make a car stand out from the crowd, as well as lowering. There are so many different types of look, being stance, dub, Euro, JDM and rat look. It all depends on your taste. I travel all over to events, as different counties have different cars, plus some events and meets around the UK are unmissable. As long as cars are being produced, I'll always be a car enthusiast because there's no boundary on performance and styling, and I'll always admire classics and newer cars. My dream car would be a Skyline R34 GTR. Ever since I saw one on Fast and Furious, I've always wanted one but never had the chance of owning one.
last off, for the interviews, we felt that we obviously had the professional's opinion on it. We got information about that way, but then we had two people who were obsessed with things, not somebody who had suffered with OCD. So we interviewed a student called Maggie, and during that she was able to give us an insight to what OCD actually did to people, and it was good context to the other two interviews we got about obsession.
Hi, I'm Maggie and I'm 16, and obviously I come to Franklin and I'm a psychology student, and 6 months ago I was diagnosed with OCD, but I've had symptoms since I was 10 years old. It's gotten a lot worse, so it is quite bad. But I've been given medication, but it doesn't really do a lot. I think it affects your life because there's not an off switch. You're constantly thinking about things. So for me, I'm constantly counting infos and constantly checking everything, and it's quite exhausting. It does have an effect because sometimes I'm too busy counting stuff, so I miss the bus to college, and you just miss out on a lot of things because you're too busy dealing with everything else. I count everything in fours, so when I'm walking, when I'm eating, it's everything. I don't go out a lot because sometimes I'm scared to leave the house, so I've missed quite a bit of college. I've had to drop down to one subject because it got too much to deal with, but hopefully it'll be better next year. Yeah, well obviously with counting and everything, and sometimes I have to do little movements in fours to calm myself down. So if you get a random twitch in your leg that you can't help, I'll have to repeat it 4 times, even though the first time wasn't because of me. Yeah, I guess it's one of those things where it's quite easy to say you have it when you don't. People who are just picky will say they have OCD, and it gets really annoying and it's quite downgrading because it's not the same. It just makes you feel uncomfortable, whereas if you do have OCD, it's constant and it never goes away. So there's a difference between having a tidy room and having OCD.
Anything you guys have missed?
Maybe that OCD doesn't define us. I've lost quite a few friends just because I don't go out much or anything. And even though that happens, we're still human, we're still normal. We just want a bit extra help.
During this documentary, following our research we did before we shot, and also the knowledge we've got from professionals we've interviewed, people with OCD we've interviewed, and also people with obsessions we've interviewed, I feel that I've learned a lot about OCD, and I think the main fact I've learned is the fact that OCD is not the same as obsession, and that OCD is much more than just people being picky and people just getting a bit obsessed about things. I feel like it's something that people need to look on a bit more with open minds.
See, what I've really learnt about OCD is that people tend to do it in a certain way. They have to say, if they were to get a leg spasm, they'd have to do it 4 times or a certain number of times, otherwise it just makes them feel uneasy, and they just can't cope without having some sort of rhythm in their life.
Yeah, just to build on what Callum said, OCD and obsessions are not the same thing. Going into this, we sort of knew this going into it, but couldn't really understand why they was different, and I think it took the interview with Maggie to sort of set aside that she's not obsessed with anything. Like, she genuinely cannot help these things. Like, she isn't obsessed. It's not like a phase that she's going through.
Yeah, she can't help it.
Like, compulsory. Like, it's a compulsory thing. She will do it no matter what.
I think that we should thank everybody who got involved with this. Maggie, Open Minds, and the people who had obsessions for the cars, the 2 girls we interviewed, and just in general it really helped us out a lot. Like, it raised awareness for this kind of mental health issues and obsessive behaviour, and thank you for watching.